Dr. Elena Vega's boots crunched through the Siberian snow as she approached the smoldering wreckage. Floodlights from a hastily established perimeter cut through the pre-dawn darkness, illuminating a scene that would forever change humanity's understanding of its place in the cosmos. Thermal imaging shows 5 heat signatures inside, Colonel Kazan said, his breath clouding in the bitter cold. Still alive, somehow. Elena nodded, tightening the straps of her hazmat suit. I'm going in. Keep the military presence back until I've made first assessment. Doctor, we don't know what. Exactly, she interrupted. We don't know, so let's not greet potential visitors with assault rifles. The twisted hull of the spacecraft, unmistakably artificial and unmistakably alien, had carved a half-kilometer trench through the taiga. Elena approached the breach in its side, her medical kit clutched tightly against her chest. The material of the hull defied immediate categorization, neither metal nor ceramic, but something that seemed to ripple slightly under her gaze. Inside, the air was thick with an acrid smell that penetrated even her filtration mask. Emergency lighting pulsed in patterns that made her eyes water. And there, huddled in what appeared to be a command center, were 5 beings. Their bodies were vaguely humanoid but wrong in subtle ways. Limbs too long, torsos too narrow, skin with a faint bluish iridescence. 3 lay motionless, while 2 weakly operated controls on a panel that flickered with symbols. I'm a doctor, Elena said, knowing they couldn't understand but hoping her tone conveyed her intent. I'm here to help. One of the conscious aliens jerked its head toward her, eyes widening, 3 pupils in each eye dilating, in what Elena instantly recognized as fear. It made a series of clicking sounds to its companion, who immediately abandoned the controls and began frantically encrypting what appeared to be a data core. Elena moved slowly toward the most severely injured alien, whose bluish blood pulsed from a gash across its torso. As she knelt to examine the wound, the alien's companions made shrill warning sounds, but were too weak to intervene. Her gloved hands gently probed the injury. The alien's skin was cool and slightly textured, like fine leather left in the rain. Its blood was thicker than human blood, almost gel-like. As she applied pressure to slow the bleeding, something extraordinary happened. The alien's tissue began responding to her touch, the cells visibly accelerating their healing process. Incredible, she whispered, observing the phenomenon through her faceplate. The injured alien's 3 pupil eyes fixed on her, with an expression impossible to read. 6 hours later, all 5 visitors had been stabilized and transported to a hastily constructed containment facility. Elena stood before a panel of grim-faced military and government officials, trying to process what she'd witnessed. They call themselves the Galactic Concordat, announced the linguistics expert, Dr. Raman. They've established basic communication through mathematical sequences. They claim to represent 17 sentient species. What were they doing here? Demanded Defense Secretary Wallace. Their vessel experienced a critical failure during observation of our planet, Raman replied. They were not meant to make contact. Observation. Elena questioned. For how long? Raman exchanged glances with intelligence officials before answering. According to our preliminary translations, centuries. The room erupted in confused debate, but Elena's mind was elsewhere. She was recalling the moment when her bare skin had accidentally touched the alien's blood during a suit breach, how it had reacted by rapidly coagulating, as if her human cells had triggered a defense mechanism. Later that night, in her makeshift lab, Elena examined cellular samples she'd smuggled out during decontamination. The alien cells contained modified genetic sequences that made no evolutionary sense, unless they had been specifically engineered to counteract human biology. As her microscope revealed the truth, the lights in her lab flickered once, twice. Then the world exploded in heat and noise as the gas line accident claimed both her research and nearly her life. In her hospital bed, bandaged and in pain, Alina watched the television as United Earth officials welcomed the Concordat diplomatic delegation that had rushed to assist their unfortunate explorers. Their environmental suits, she noted, were far more sophisticated than necessary for mere life support, and they referred to Earth as the isolated one, with expressions that, despite their alien features, Alina now recognized clearly as barely concealed fear. Lieutenant Commander Jackson Wei stood before the mirror in his quarters aboard the UES diplomatic vessel Emissary, adjusting his dress uniform. In 6 hours, he would become one of the first humans to set foot on Concordat Central Station, the heart of alien governance. His reflection betrayed nothing of his true mission. Last chance to back out. Dr. Vega's voice came through his secure comm. Her face on the screen was still scared from the explosion 3 months ago. Not a chance, White replied, touching the back of his neck where the nearly invisible surgical marks remained. How's our friend Maya doing with the intelligence feeds? She says the implants should work perfectly. Just don't bite your fingernails. Wei smiled grimly. Beneath each of his fingernails lay microscopic data storage units, an experimental technology that could store terabytes of information in structures indistinguishable from human keratin. Remember, Alina continued, priority targets are biological classification systems, threat assessments, and anything mentioning Earth specifically. And if uncaught? Alina's scared face hardened. Then ensure the data makes it home, whatever the cost. The journey to Concordat Central took 3 days aboard a Concordat shuttle. Wei immediately noticed how uncomfortable everything was. The seats designed for bodies with different proportions, gravity set at 1.2 Earth standard, lighting that emitted spectrum ranges that gave humans subtle headaches. Is it possible to adjust the gravity? He asked his guide, a willowy being called Trestlin from the Exalti species. Apologies, but standardization is necessary for station efficiency. Trestlin replied with what we now recognized as rehearsed regret. You will adapt. Designed to put us at a constant disadvantage, we realized. Everything just uncomfortable enough to keep us slightly disoriented. By the time they docked, Wei's muscles ached from the higher gravity. The station itself was enormous, an artificial world housing representatives from all 17 Concordat species. As they moved through the vast docking bay, Wei carefully memorized security patterns while appearing to gawk like an overwhelmed diplomat. His opportunity came during their third tour cycle. Trestlin was demonstrating a cultural exchange terminal when the alien suddenly stiffened, emitted a high-pitched whine, and collapsed into what appeared to be a seizure. We didn't hesitate. While other delegates called for medical assistance, he slipped away, finding a maintenance junction where station schematics had shown an administrative access point. His fingers, trained through countless hacking simulations, moved rapidly over the alien interface. The universal translation protocols installed during diplomatic preparation gave him a crude understanding of the Concordat's data architecture. 3 security bypasses later, he was in. What he found froze his blood. Species TLA Sci-Fi HFY, Homo sapiens, Sol 3/TRA. Statutus, DEATHUORLDE, Pursuit Predator Variant, Max Hexamuum Containment Period. 380 Leviel. Alpha Prime. GDNEDC base elinen. Unsafe/unmodified. QURENTCONTANNENT. Compromised. BURIHGAT. TURACALENDR 2089. Wei's fingers trembled as he accessed the detailed threat assessment. A comparative physiology file displayed humans alongside other species, highlighting in alarming red what the Concordat considered aberrant traits: recovery from catastrophic injury, function despite sleep deprivation, capacity for sustained cardiovascular output, psychological resilience under extreme stress, pack bonding with non-genetic relations. Then he found the video files. The timestamp indicated 2091. just after humanity's first experimental FTL jump. The footage showed captured human explorers in a Concordat holding facility. A human female, despite restraints designed for creatures with 3 times human strength, broke free through sheer determination, dislocating both shoulders in the process. Instead of being incapacitated by pain, she continued fighting, taking down 2 security officers before being subdued. The Concordat analysis was chilling. Subject continued aggressive functions despite injuries that would trigger autonomic shutdown in all known sentient species. Hypothesis: Sol-3 organisms do not possess standard pain compliance responses due to evolutionary history as pursuit predators. Recommendation: maximum containment protocols. Genetic modification essential before any integration. An alarm suddenly shrieked. Y had triggered a security protocol. He rapidly copied as much data as possible, using his fingernails to scratch storage surfaces in a predetermined pattern, while the system tried to lock him out. He barely made it back to the diplomatic reception, heart pounding. But something was wrong. The other human delegates seemed disoriented, their movements sluggish. "Ah, Commander Wei," Treslin said, fully recovered and standing with security drones. "You missed refreshments." Everyone found them quite relaxing. Drugged, Wei realized too late. His vision blurred as he felt a pinprick on his neck. Fighting the sedative with every ounce of will, he activated the ship's emergency protocols through his command bracelet. The last thing he saw before falling was Treslin's 3 pupilled eyes, no longer maintaining their diplomatic facade, but showing their true emotion. Fear mixed with disgust. "Don't touch anything," Dr. Elena Vega warned as the recovery team opened Commander Wei's mangled escape pod. 3 weeks had passed since the diplomatic mission went catastrophically wrong. The official Concordat explanation cited navigational system failure and tragic loss of life. But Elena knew better. "Life signs?" she asked, stepping carefully into the cramped space. The pod's interior was splattered with blood. Too much blood for anyone to have survived. "None, Doctor," the technician replied solemnly. Commander Wei was pronounced dead on recovery. Belina nodded grimly, her eyes scanning the pod's surfaces. She was supposedly here as a medical examiner, but her true purpose was known only to her and Admiral Chen. "I need the room," she announced. When the technicians hesitated, she added, "Possible biohazard contamination. Protocol demands private assessment." Once alone, Elena moved quickly. Wei's body lay broken in the pilot's chair, his fingers bloody and torn, not from the crash, she realized, but from deliberate action. Following their contingency plan, she examined his fingernails under a portable microscope, confirming her suspicions. The specialized data storage was intact, though incomplete. More telling was the flight recorder. Unlike standard protocol, Wei hadn't verbally logged his emergency. Instead, he had smeared bloody fingerprints across the device's access panel in patterns that would appear random to anyone but her. 2 hours later, in a secure lab beneath the Washington Recovery Hospital, Elena and the brilliant but disgraced hacker Maya Chakraborty reviewed what remained of Wei's data. "Most of it's corrupted," Maya said, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. "But what's here is..." She trailed off, her dark eyes widening. "Is what?" Elena pressed. "Terrifying," Maya whispered, projecting the findings. "Your suspicions were right. Earth has been under quarantine for centuries, possibly millennia. These signal-dampening satellites, they're disguised as debris, hundreds of them, all calibrated to selectively suppress technological advancement." Elena studied the schematics. "That explains the Dark Ages," she murmured. "The seemingly random collapses of promising civilizations throughout history." "There's more," Maya continued, enhancing another fragment. "Project Final Boundary. It's in its last phase. Something about neural implant networks and key human decision-makers." Elena felt ice crawl down her spine. Neural implants. In who? The answer came 3 days later when she presented her findings to Admiral Chen. the only UEC officer she trusted completely. "This is concerning, Doctor," Chen said, reviewing the data with unsettling calmness. "But I'm not convinced it warrants the panic you're suggesting." Elena stared at him, confounded by his dismissal. "Admiral, this is evidence of alien infiltration at the highest levels. Perhaps we should discuss this with our Concordat partners," Chen suggested, his expression oddly vacant. "They've been nothing but helpful since the tragic accident." Later that night, Elena received an encrypted message from Maya. "Found so meeting. Come alone." In Maya's underground apartment, a fortress of electronic countermeasures, the hacker displayed microscopic scans of tissue samples Elena had collected from military personnel who'd undergone Concordat medical examinations. "Neural implants," Maya confirmed, pointing to nearly invisible filaments threading through brain tissue. "Designed to influence decision-making without detection. And guess who has the biggest concentration?" A holographic image of Admiral Chen appeared, his brain lit up with alien technology. "My God," Elena breathed. "It gets worse," Maya said, pulling up a star chart. "The Concordat didn't just share this fancy new star drive technology out of generosity. There's something embedded in the programming." "What kind of something?" "The kind that lets them track every ship we've retrofitted. But there's someone who might have figured it out before us." A personnel file appeared. Captain Maria Okafor of the UES Pathfinder, a former navigation prodigy with an eidetic memory for spatial calculations. Her recent reports had been flagged and buried by Concordat advisors, embedded in Fleet Command. "She's noticed the course discrepancies," Elena realized. "And her ship launches tomorrow with a full Concordat technical team aboard," Maya added grimly. "We need to warn her." Elena shook her head. "No. Warning her would alert them. We need to let her discover it herself." "How can you be sure she will?" Elena smiled thinly. "Because she's human. And if there's one thing the Concordat truly fears about us, it's that we notice patterns. We question. We hunt for truth." She gazed at the star chart showing the Pathfinder's upcoming journey. "They've contained us for centuries, but they've never truly understood what they were containing." Captain Maria Okafor stood on the bridge of the UES Pathfinder, Earth's most advanced starship, watching her Concordat technical advisor with veiled suspicion. Tilet was a Bricari, one of the Concordat's central species, tall, with four-jointed limbs and skin that shifted colors with emotional states. "The new drives are functioning within expected parameters," Zealot reported, his skin rippling with professional blue-green patterns. "The course to the Proxima trading station is optimal." Maria nodded politely, but her mind was elsewhere. For 3 days, she had been mentally recalculating their course using the star mapping techniques that had made her a navigation prodigy. The results troubled her deeply. "I'll be in my quarters," she announced. "Commander Rice, you have the bridge." Once alone, Maria pulled up the official course on her personal terminal, then overlaid it with her own calculations. The difference was stark. The Concordat route would take 17 days, while her direct path would take only 6. She had verified the calculations 27 times. "They're deliberately keeping us on the scenic route," she realized. But why? A decision crystallized. Without authorization, she uploaded her new coordinates to the navigation computer, encoding them with her command override. The ship's computer accepted the changes silently. The next morning, she arrived on the bridge to find Silat staring at the navigation display, his skin pulsing with alarming red patterns. "Captain," he said, voice carefully controlled. "There appears to be a navigation error. We've deviated from the approved course." "No error," Maria replied calmly. "I've plotted a more efficient route." Silat's 4 fingers twitched against the console. "This road is unsafe. Concordat protocols clearly state." "We're not in Concordat space yet," Maria interrupted. "Under UEC regulations, the captain determines the most efficient route." She stepped closer, noting how Xilat's pupils constricted. "Unless there's a specific reason we should avoid this sector." No reason, Zealot replied too quickly. But as your technical advisor, I must insist we return to the approved coordinates. Request noted, Maria said, turning away. That night, the ship's security AI alerted her to an unauthorized entry attempt on her quarters. The surveillance footage showed Zealot using an override code that shouldn't have existed in his possession. More disturbing, when the attempt failed, he accessed a maintenance panel outside her quarters. Maria waited until ship's midnight before acting. A surprise inspection of Zealot's quarters revealed nothing, but using her engineering skills, she traced power fluctuations to a hidden device installed within the ship's communication array. At 400 hours, she called an emergency meeting with her most trusted officers in the ship's Faraday-shielded tactical room. Effective immediately, we are initiating Protocol 0, she announced to their shocked faces. Complete communications blackout, full sweep for unauthorized technology. That's an invasion protocol, her security chief protested. We'd need confirmation off. I have confirmation. Maria cut him off, displaying the evidence of Zealot's espionage. And at 600, we're shutting down every piece of Concordat technology on this ship. We'll be flying on our original human systems only. That will leave us nearly blind, her engineering officer warned. Better blind than watched, Maria replied. Begin preparations. When Zealot arrived on the bridge at 600, he found Captain Okafor and a security team waiting. What is the meaning of? He began, but froze when he saw the disassembled communication device on the console. Care to explain this? Maria asked. Specifically, why it contains a quantum entanglement transmitter that would detonate our drive core upon activation. Zealot's skin flashed to combat red as he lunged for the nearest control panel. Maria was faster, her reflexes honed by years of zeroed combat training. She struck with precision, dropping the alien with a calculated blow to what human xenobiologists had identified as a neural cluster. All hands, she announced shipwide. Execute Protocol 0. We're going dark. As the Pathfinder systematically purged every piece of Concordat technology, the ship vanished from alien monitoring networks. For the first time since contact, a human vessel moved through space truly independent, unobserved. Across the vast distance of space on Earth, the final act of the Concordat's deception was about to be revealed. The Pathfinder drifted silently through uncharted space, running on minimal power to avoid detection. Captain Okafor stood in the observation deck, studying the unfamiliar star patterns while her crew completed their sweep for Concordat technology. 13 separate sabotage devices removed, Captain, Commander Rice reported, and 1 quantum entanglement communicator embedded in the hull plating. They never trusted us, Maria murmured. Not for a moment. What's our next move? Rice asked. We're flying blind without their navigation data. Maria turned, a predatory smile forming. Not entirely blind. We still have passive sensors. Those sensors revealed something unexpected 12 hours later. Concordat ships converging on a distant sector where no official installations should exist. Using only minimal thrust to avoid detection, Maria ordered the Pathfinder to approach the gathering. What they discovered chilled every human aboard. A massive space station surrounded by Concordat vessels, offloading what appeared to be human captives. Those are survey ships, Lieutenant Park whispered, checking registry data against their offline database. Earth registered them as lost in deep space accidents over the past decade. Maria's decision was immediate. Prepare a rescue team. Minimal equipment. Maximum stealth. Captain, her security chief protested. Regulations require. I know what regulations require, Maria cut him off. But I also know what humanity requires. Those are our people. Hours later, Maria led a team of 12 through the station's maintenance ducts, using electromagnetic disruptors to avoid security systems. What they discovered exceeded their worst nightmares. The facility housed hundreds of humans, categorized and separated like laboratory specimens. One section contained nothing but distance runners, another only those with exceptional strength. Problem solvers were isolated from creative thinkers. Most disturbing were the breeding areas, where humans with specific genetic traits were being paired in controlled environments. In the central laboratory, Maria accessed the facility's database while her team planted explosives at key structural points. "They're studying us," she whispered, scrolling through experiment data, trying to isolate what makes us different. The files revealed the Concordat's deepest fear. Unlike other sentient species, humans had evolved as pursuit predators, with unique neurological adaptations for tracking, hunting, and warfare. While other species experienced severe psychological trauma from prolonged conflict, humans showed remarkable adaptation. One file contained brain scans comparing humans to other species under combat stress, where alien brains showed progressive neural degradation. Human brains formed new pathways, becoming more efficient at combat response with exposure. Most terrifying to the Concordat scientists was data showing that humans exhibited increased strength and cognitive function when protecting others, a trait no other species possessed. Notes classified this as pack bond enhancement syndrome and suggested it made humans uniquely dangerous as both warriors and colonizers. As Maria downloaded the data, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. They'd been discovered. Moved to extraction point, she ordered her team through encrypted comms. Begin liberation protocol. While half her team engaged security forces as a diversion, Maria led the others to the containment areas. As force fields deactivated, confused prisoners emerged from cells, some having been captive for years. "We're with the UES Pathfinder," Maria told them. "We're getting you out." "There are others," one emaciated man told her. "Not just humans. Other species they're experimenting on." Maria made a split-second decision that would change the course of galactic history. Free them all. As chaos engulfed the station, Maria's team fought their way toward the docking bay. The station commander, a high-ranking Concordat official, activated the self-destruct sequence with a sneering declaration: "Better to lose our research than let predators loose in the galaxy." Maria faced an impossible choice: escape with the evidence or save the prisoners. Through gritted teeth, she chose both. "Reyes," she called over comms to her first officer aboard the Pathfinder. "Implement sacrifice protocol." The Pathfinder, humanity's most advanced vessel, converted itself into a battering ram, smashing through the station's docking ring to create an escape route, while Maria's team commandeered 3 Concordat vessels. As the station began to break apart, hundreds of liberated test subjects of various species crowded aboard the stolen ships. As they fled into open space, a transmission reached them. A distress call from Earth reporting Concordat ships in orbit, weapons trained on major cities. Maria's response was simple, sent on all frequencies for both human and alien ears. "We're coming home, and we're not coming alone." Aboard her commandeered vessel, renamed Humanity's Vengeance, Maria looked at the diverse faces of the liberated prisoners. Humans alongside several alien species who had suffered similar fates. In their eyes, she saw not just gratitude, but a shared understanding. The predator had awakened, and it was angry. Earth stood on the brink of capitulation. 20 massive Concordat warships hung in orbit, weapons trained on major population centers. The 24-hour ultimatum was halfway expired. Accept protected partnership status, or face containment measures. In an emergency session of the United Nations Security Council, representatives voted 13-2 to accept the Concordat's terms. Secretary General Miyazaki made the announcement with a face carved from stone. "For the survival of our species, we must accept these conditions." Concordat Ambassador Vrel's 3 pupilled eyes gleamed with satisfaction as deployment of protective platforms began in Earth orbit. Victory celebrations commenced aboard the flagship. What the Concordat didn't recognize was the nature of humanity's strategic deception, a plan orchestrated by Dr. Vega, Maya, and Admiral Chen, who had undergone a dangerous procedure to remove his neural implant. Operation Long Hunt commences now, Chen whispered to his secure communications officer. At that moment, multiple nuclear detonations lit up Earth's asteroid belt. What appeared to be a catastrophic mining accident was actually the first phase of humanity's response. The detonations propelled thousands of asteroids onto new trajectories, creating an unpredictable debris field that disrupted the Concordat's sensor networks. Sensor anomalies in sectors 7 through 23, reported a Concordat technician. Possible weapons deployment. Irrelevant. Dismissed Commander Thrix of the flagship. Their Arctic nuclear weapons cannot penetrate our shields. But the nuclear blasts weren't weapons. They were cover. From mining stations throughout the belt, hundreds of small, independently operated craft emerged, using the debris field as camouflage. These weren't military vessels, but mining ships, their drilling equipment repurposed into makeshift weapons. In her underground command center, Dr. Vega monitored the operation, while Maya coordinated communications through channels the Concordat couldn't detect. Remember the profile. Vega instructed the civilian pilots. They're herd species. They expect either submission or a desperate frontal assault. They cannot comprehend or counter predator tactics. Those tactics unfolded with devastating effectiveness. Instead of attacking en masse, the human ships operated in coordinated packs of 3 to 5 vessels. One group would appear, draw attention, then disappear back into the debris field, while another struck from an unexpected angle. The Concordat commanders, frustrated by humanity's refusal to engage conventionally, committed their defensive screens to protect against what they assumed would be a central assault on their flagship. This critical error left their auxiliary vessels exposed. They're spreading their forces thin, Maya observed, tracking Concordat ship movements. Just as you predicted. Vega nodded grimly. Predators don't attack the strongest target first. We isolate. We weaken. We outlast. As the space battle intensified, Admiral Chen enacted the second phase of Operation Long Hunt. Earth's apparent submission had allowed Concordat forces to begin landing administrative teams in major cities. These teams found themselves greeted not with resistance, but with eerie absence. Key population centers had been quietly evacuated days earlier through protocols established after Way's data reached Earth. Aboard the Concordat flagship, Commander Thrix received increasingly disturbing reports. No systematic resistance, but persistent, unpredictable attacks that disappeared before effective countermeasures could be deployed. More alarming was the psychological profile of captured human pilots. Instead of showing fear or demoralization after comrades were lost, they displayed increased focus and determination. They're not fighting like civilized beings, Thrix snarled to his executive officer. There's no central command structure to target, no hierarchy to decapitate. Each small unit operates independently, but somehow maintains coordination. It's hunting behavior, the xenobiologist explained, mandibles clicking nervously. Pack predators don't require direct leadership during a hunt. They understand their role instinctively. As the 24-hour deadline approached its end, the Concordat's carefully orchestrated containment operation was unraveling. Their neat battle formations had been pulled apart, communication relays targeted, supply ships harassed. No decisive confrontation had occurred, yet they were losing control of the situation. In the debris field, the human vessels continued their relentless guerrilla campaign. They weren't trying to win through superior firepower. They were wearing down their enemy through persistence, the evolutionary strategy that had made humans the most successful hunters on their world. Intercepted communications revealed the Concordat commanders' growing terror as they realized what they were facing wasn't just another sentient species. It was a planetary population of apex predators, fighting for survival with the patience and persistence that had defined their evolution. As humanity's guerrilla campaign entered its third day, a secure transmission reached Dr. Vega's underground command center. The source was neither human nor Concordat. "We have been monitoring your resistance," stated a harsh, clicking voice. The translator identified it as Vectari, a species mentioned in Weiss fragmentary data. Your methods are familiar to us. Who are you? Vega demanded. Those who remember what we once were, came the cryptic reply. The Concordat calls us successfully integrated species. We call ourselves the diminished. Within hours, representatives from 3 Concordat member species, the Vectari, Sauron, and Nemidians, made covert contact through channels Maya had established. Their offer was unprecedented, alliance against their oppressors. In a secure video conference, the alien representatives revealed their shared history. Unlike the herbivore-evolved Concordat leadership, these were species descended from ambush predators. Their original cultures, martial traditions, and even biological traits had been systematically erased under the guise of uplifting and civilization. For 10 generations, we have endured their medical treatments, explained Krelvoss, a Vectari whose leathery skin bore ritual scars from forbidden ancestral practices. He opened his mouth to reveal flat grinding teeth. Our young are born with teeth designed to tear flesh, but the Concordat performs corrective procedures before they reach maturity. The Nemidian representative, a female named Hilara, added they altered our reproductive cycles, claiming it was to prevent overpopulation. In truth, it was to remove our seasonal aggression patterns. Why help us now? Admiral Chen asked. After generations of compliance. Because you fight as we once did, Krelvoss answered. You awaken memories our oppressors try to erase. The Alliance provided crucial intelligence. The Concordat's central worlds had never experienced actual conflict. Their war doctrine was entirely theoretical, and their home systems had no civilian defense protocols. Their leadership cannot comprehend defeat, Hilara explained. In their evolutionary history, when a herd was overwhelmed, submission was immediate and total. The concept of continued resistance after demonstrating inferiority violates their most basic instincts. Armed with this insight, Captain Okafor, now approaching Earth with her fleet of liberated prisoners aboard stolen Concordat vessels, proposed a daring operation. Using the access codes and biological signatures provided by their new allies, a team of human special forces and Vectari guides would infiltrate the Concordat's central archives. We need to know why Earth was really quarantined, Okafor insisted during the encrypted planning session. Waze data suggests this containment predates our modern civilization. The raid succeeded beyond expectations. While Earth forces continued their distracting guerrilla campaign, Okafor's team penetrated the Concordat's most secure historical repository. What they discovered rewrote humanity's understanding of its own past. Earth was first visited during the Upper Paleolithic period, approximately 40,000 years ago. The initial scientific expedition, expecting to find simple animals, encountered human hunter-gatherers instead. The archived records included fossilized documentation, the equivalent of field notes preserved in specialized crystal matrices. Indigenous species displays unprecedented aggression, read the translation of one entry. Despite our defensive measures, the creatures coordinated attacks using only primitive tools. 6 researchers lost, remaining 2 critically injured. The final transmission from that doomed expedition described humans in terms that still shaped Concordat policy millennia later. Unlike any predator species encountered, these bipeds demonstrate impossible persistence, continuing pursuit beyond all biological reason. They appear capable of tracking through sensory deprivation, cooperating without obvious communication, and sacrificing individual safety for group success. The Concordat had immediately classified Earth as the Nightmare World and established a permanent quarantine, including technology to subtly suppress human advancement. This containment worked until 2089, when the first experimental human FTL drives accidentally created a resonance pattern that weakened the suppression field. That's why they're so desperate to contain us now, Okafor realized. We terrified them before we even had bronze tools. Now we have starships. As this revelation spread through resistance channels, it transformed humanity's understanding of the conflict. They weren't fighting technologically superior beings who viewed them as inferior primitives. They were facing terrified herd species who had recognized humans as the ultimate predators even before modern technology. With this psychological advantage and their new allies, human forces prepared for Operation Wolfpack, simultaneous strikes against 7 critical Concordat worlds using the hunting formation patterns encoded in human DNA since before recorded history. Operation Wolfpack succeeded beyond all expectations. Within 72 hours, human forces and their allies penetrated to Harmonious Center, the Concordat's governing world. The coordinated assault, following ancient hunting patterns hardwired into human instinct, overwhelmed defenses designed to repel conventional attacks. The planetary defense grid fell to a precision strike team led by Maya, who turned the Concordat's own security systems against them. Having studied their network architecture for months, she exploited a fundamental weakness. The systems were designed to defend against external threats, never considering that prey might become predators. "I'm in." Maya's transmission came through to the command vessel. Their security is built on harmony, every system supporting others in perfect balance. They never considered someone might deliberately create discord. The surviving crew of the Pathfinder, led by Captain Okafor, secured the central broadcasting hub, while Dr. Vega and Admiral Chen prepared for the most audacious move yet, a direct approach to the Concordat Supreme Council. The Concordat leaders, protected in their inner sanctum, expected either execution or demands for unconditional surrender. Instead, they received a formal request for a public audience. Their confusion was evident even through alien features as Dr. Vega entered the chamber unarmed, carrying only a data crystal. "You have defeated our forces through dishonorable tactics," stated High Coordinator Zol, the Concordat's supreme leader. "State your terms for our submission." "We're not here for your surrender," Vega replied, her voice transmitted to every Concordat world through the systems Maya had commandeered. "We're here for the truth." The data crystal activated, projecting evidence that stunned trillions of viewers across thousands of worlds: the suppression of Earth, the genetic tampering of conquered species, the systematic lies told to maintain control. Records from the research facility Captain Okafor had raided revealed generations of biological experimentation on unwilling subjects. As the evidence mounted, protests erupted on dozens of worlds. But instead of demanding the Concordat's destruction, Dr. Vega offered something revolutionary. "You feared us as predators," she addressed the trillions watching, "but you never understood what that truly means." At her signal, Captain Okafor shared tactical recordings from Operation Wolfpack. They showed human forces deliberately bypassing vulnerable civilian targets, even at greater risk to themselves. Where Concordat doctrine would have targeted population centers to force surrender, humans had systematically avoided civilian casualties. "Predators aren't mindless killers," Vega continued. "We protect our territory, our young, our pack. And now, our pack has grown." Admiral Chen stepped forward, his military bearing imposing even among the towering Concordat representatives. "For millennia, you tried to suppress what you feared. But in doing so, you denied yourselves what you needed most: guardians." In a gesture that would be remembered for generations, Maya executed the final phase of their plan, releasing all genetic modification records to every world simultaneously. Billions of beings across dozens of species suddenly gained access to the truth of what had been taken from them. The response was immediate and overwhelming. 7 Concordat species declared independence within hours. Riots erupted on 23 worlds. The carefully maintained social order, built on deception and genetic suppression, began to collapse. 3 weeks later, representatives from 42 species gathered on Earth, once the quarantined nightmare world, now the center of a new interstellar alliance. As the treaty signing concluded, an elderly Vectari approached Dr. Vega, tears in his eyes. "My grandfather told stories of what we once were," he said, displaying newly regrown predator teeth, where the Concordat had modified his species to have only grinding molars. For 10 generations, we dreamed of reclaiming our nature. We never imagined our liberators would be a species even fiercer than our ancestors. The ceremony concluded with a symbolic gesture. Captain Okafor, now Admiral of the new Galactic Defense Fleet, presenting traditional predator totems from Earth cultures to each formerly suppressed species. Wolf for the Vectari, who had once been pack hunters. Jaguar for the solitary Sauron ambush predators. Eagle for the aerial Mimidians. Today, she announced to representatives of dozens of worlds, the universe learns what Earth has always known. The most dangerous predators make the most dedicated protectors. This is humanity unveiled. Not just hunters, but guardians. Not just predators, but protectors. This is mankind's true stellar identity. As the celebration continued, Dr. Vega stood on a balcony overlooking the gathering of species. A Concordat observer approached cautiously. "We still don't understand," the alien admitted. "How can a species evolve to kill become protectors?" Vega smiled, watching human children playing with young Vectari, their predator instincts expressed in games of tag and hide and seek rather than violence. "Because the true strength of a predator isn't in its teeth or claws," she answered. "It's in knowing when to use them, and when not to. That's the lesson we've spent our evolutionary history learning. And now we can teach it to the stars."